I have two books for you today. The first one you've probably heard about. It's called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And of course, it's written by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in the town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand and the Who's would start singing. And they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of his Who's Christmas sing, the more Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? And then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. That did not stop the old Grinch. No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up! And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little Who house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue. Where's the little Who stockings all hung in a row? These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. And he stuffed them in bags, and the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, and when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove, he turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied, there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 dawn, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings and trappings. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in a low, and it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours. This puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the brightest morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food and the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. That's a Merry Christmas from the Grinch. The next book I have is called Dasher, and it's written by Matt Tavares. Dasher is a brave little doe with a wish in her heart. She spends her days with her family under the hot sun in a traveling circus. But she longs for a different life, one in which her hooves tread in soft, cold snow under the glow of the North Star. And one day, When the opportunity arises, Dasher seizes her destiny and takes off in pursuit of the life she wants to live. It's not too long before she meets a nice man in a red suit with a big sleigh. And soon, with the help of a powerful wish, Christmas will never be the same. You may have heard the story of how a certain red-nosed reindeer was chosen to guide Santa's sleigh one foggy Christmas Eve. You've probably heard of the 8 other reindeer too. Maybe you can even remember all their names. But you might be surprised to hear that there was a time, long ago, when Santa's sleigh was pulled not by a team of reindeer, but by a single horse named Silverbell. In those days, Santa didn't have quite as many toys to deliver as he does now. But over the years, as more and more children believed in the magic of Christmas, Santa's list grew longer and longer, and his sleigh grew heavier and heavier. Santa knew that pretty soon, dear old Silverbell was going to need some help. This is the story of how an ordinary family of reindeer became the most famous animals in the world, and it would have never happened if it weren't for a brave young doe named Dasher. Life was not so easy for the reindeer family of J.P. Finnegan's traveling circus and menagerie. They spent long days crammed together under the hot sun in an endless stream of curious people who jostled to catch a glimpse of them. Even at night there was little rest. Some nights, to pass the time, Mama would tell stories. It was a magical place, she would say. The air was crisp and cold, and the ground was always covered with a cool blanket of white snow. Your father and I were free to roam under the glow of the North Star. Dasher, the youngest reindeer, loved Mama's stories. Is that the North Star, Mama? She'd ask. The very same, Mama said. We always knew we were home when it was directly overhead. I wish we could go there, said Dasher. Mama sighed. I do too, she said, but Mr. Finnegan is not kind to animals who try to escape. Day after day, under the watchful eye of Mr. Finnegan, the reindeer family delighted crowds wherever they went. Dasher liked being with her family, and she loved meeting so many children who were always kind to her. Sometimes they even fed her carrots, which were her very favorite food. But at night, while the others were sleeping, she would lie awake, gazing at the bright star on the horizon, wishing for a crisp, cold air and a cool blanket of white snow. One night, mighty winds shook the circus tents and rattled the animals' cages. Dasher was wide awake, wishing on the North Star, when she was startled by a loud creak. The gate to the pen had swung open. Dasher could hear rustling from inside Mr. Finnegan's trailer. She glanced up at the North Star. She looked back at her sleeping family, and she knew that this might be her only chance. Her heart pounded, and she took a deep breath, and then she ran as fast as she could. On she went for hours with the North Star as her guide, but no matter how far she traveled, it was still way off in the horizon. Dasher began to wonder if she would ever make it there. She thought about turning back, but she couldn't remember the way. She didn't know what to do, so she looked up at the North Star and made a wish. Just then, Dasher heard something in the distance, a soft jingling coming from the woods. There, in a clearing, Dasher saw a man and a horse. I'm sorry, Santa, said the horse. The sleigh is just too heavy this year. The man smiled. Now don't you worry, Silverbell, he said. We'll take all the breaks you need. But the children, said the horse, they'll be heartbroken if we can't deliver all these toys Christmas morning. Children, thought Dasher. She stepped forward. Maybe I can help, she said. Hello there, said the man. Dasher walked closer. The man smiled. Have you ever pulled a sleigh, he asked. Dasher shook her head. I've never even seen a sleigh, she said, but I pull a wagon just about every night. Well, said the man, how would you like to make a whole bunch of children really happy on Christmas morning? I'd like that very much, said Dasher. Santa thanked Dasher and attached her harness. It was soft against her fur, and its jingling bells made the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Santa climbed into his sleigh, and Dasher pulled with all her might. Then suddenly the load felt lighter. Dasher looked down, and they were flying. All night, Dasher and Silverbell pulled Santa's sleigh through the air as Santa guided it from rooftop to rooftop, delivering toys to children everywhere. Dasher had never experienced such a thrill, and she ate so many carrots she felt like she would burst. She was having so much fun, she forgot all about the North Star. As the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon, they landed. The air was crisp and cold, and the ground was covered with a cool blanket of white snow. Dasher searched for the North Star on the horizon, but couldn't find it anywhere. Santa smiled. Dasher, he said, look up. And there it was, directly overhead. Is that the North Star? She asked. Santa's eyes twinkled. Merry Christmas, he said, and welcome home. The North Pole was just as wonderful as Mama's stories. Dasher roamed wherever she pleased, and Santa gave her all the carrots she wanted. But something was missing. I love it here, she told Santa, but I miss my family. I wish we could be together. Santa smiled. That's your best wish ever, Dasher. Let's go find them. Late that night, Dasher guided Santa's sleigh all the way to J.P. Finnegan's traveling circus and menagerie. Mama, Papa, Dasher whispered. Everyone, wake up. Mama lifted her head. Dasher, she said, is it really you? It's me, Mama, said Dasher. She told her family all about Santa and Silverbell and how the North Pole was just as amazing as Mama's stories. But I missed you, she said. You were all I wished for. Dasher led her family to Santa's sleigh, and Santa attached their harnesses. You're not going to believe this part, she said. When Christmas Eve had arrived, Silverbell watched as Santa prepared his team. Are you sure you don't want to come? Asked Dasher. I'm sure, said Silverbell. I know the 8 of you will do a fine job. Late that night, as Santa and his new team of reindeer soared around the world, he called them by name for the very first time. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. On Christmas morning, after all the toys had been delivered, they flew back to the North Pole where they still live happily today. There, the air is crisp and cold, and the ground is always covered with a cool blanket of white snow. And Dasher has everything she ever wished for. The end. Thanks a lot, and Merry Christmas.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm Jo, and I'm here to read to you today. First, I'm going to start with a book about Hanukkah. So if you celebrate Hanukkah, you'll really enjoy this. If you don't celebrate Hanukkah, you might enjoy it as well. The name of the book is The Best Hanukkah Ever, and it was written by Barbara Diamond Golden and illustrated by Avi Katz. So let's get started. It was Saturday night before Hanukkah, and the Knuddle family was sitting around the kitchen table eating their supper. Did you hear what the rabbi said at synagogue this morning? Asked Papa Jack. Mama Pearl finished the last spoonful of her chicken soup. Such a smart rabbi, she said. He told us it's hard to give the perfect gift, one that will be treasured forever. The Knuddles silently pondered the rabbi's words. Bubby Sadie thought so much that her nose wrinkled. Mama Pearl got a headache. Little Yekel tumbled off his chair. The family vowed to practice the rabbi's wise advice. Papa Jack put everyone's name in a hat. Each canoodle was to give a gift to the person whose name was picked. On the first night of Hanukkah, the family menorah was lit. They sang holiday songs and told the Hanukkah story. The smell of Mama Pearl's potato pancakes filled the air. And I believe they're also called latkes, but here they say potato pancakes. So did the noodles, laughing and shrieking each time they spun the dreidel. Then it came time to exchange presents. The canoodles pulled out their perfect gifts. Such a pile I never saw, said Papa Jack. Youngest goes first, said Mama Pearl. The gift for little Yekel was as round and big as little Yekel himself. He thumped on the package. It made a hollow sound. Bubby Sadie smiled proudly. It's from me, she said. Little Yekel tore off the paper. Why, Bubby Sadie, exclaimed Mama Pearl. It's a pickle barrel, just like Grandma Alta's in the old country. Such pickles she made, Bubby Sadie licked her lips. It kills me to give away that old barrel. But like the rabbi said, it's hard to give the perfect gift. Little Yekel started banging the wooden barrel like a drum. Bubby Sadie frowned. Such a nice pickle barrel, and see what he does? Don't fuss, Mama Pearl said. He'll enjoy his pickle barrel when he's older. Open my present, Papa Jack, said Mama. Papa Jack unwrapped his present and held it in his hands. A straw hat with yellow daisies circled the brim, and purple ribbons cascaded down the back. Papa Jack didn't say a word. I've wanted a hat like that my whole life, said Mama Pearl. Papa Jack sat quietly. I know what I'll do. He grabbed his motorcycle helmet from the hat tree and plunked the straw hat on top of it. I'll start a new style, said Papa Jack. Mama Pearl stamped her foot. You'll stretch it out of shape, she said crossly. Ugh, these canoodle husbands, said Bubby Sadie. What do they know of hats? Papa Jack handed Mama Pearl her present. Look what I got you, he said. It'll put a smile back on your face. A canoodle guarantee. Mama Pearl pulled off the paper and saw a sparkly red guitar. I can't play this, she snapped. Then learn, said Papa Jack, looking wistfully at the lovely guitar. I wish somebody had given one to me. Open my present, Bubby Sadie, Shayna said. A curling iron? Bubba Sadie wailed. If only I had more hair left to curl. She began to sob. All at once, Shayna's present jumped. She fell backward. What kind of a present jumps, she asked. Tree frogs, cried little Yekel. They're beauties, too. I've been visiting them at the pet shop every day after school. Shayna screamed. Papa Jack went redder than a beet. Mama Pearl glared at the helmet with her hat smashed down over it. Bubby Sadie sadly stroked the few hairs left on her head and cried louder. Little Yekel stomped and thumped his pickle barrel, making the house shake with a horrible racket. The canoodles were miserable. This was their worst Hanukkah ever. Jack, go get the rabbi, ordered Bubby Sadie. On Hanukkah? Said Papa Jack. But soon he was back with the rabbi. Mama Pearl was the first to complain. We did just what you said. We gave one another perfect gifts, but none of us are happy. Bubby Sadie shook her finger at the rabbi. See what happened because of you? The rabbi looked at the angry canoodles. This is a big mistake, I said. It's hard to give the perfect gift, one that will be treasured forever. That means it should be treasured to who gets it, not to who gives it. Well, what do we do now? Cried Bubby Sadie. Our Hanukkah is ruined. Little Yekel jumped up. No, it isn't, he shouted. He rolled the pickle barrel over to Bubby Sadie, who affectionately pinched his cheek. Papa Jack peeled the hat off his motorcycle helmet and tied it onto Mama Pearl's head. She kissed her husband and presented him with a shiny guitar. Shayna caught the frogs and gave them to little Yekel. Bubby Sadie picked up the curling iron and gave it to Shayna. Just what I always wanted, beamed Mama. Me too, all the canoodles yelled at once. They grabbed hands and did a little dance around the rabbi. This is the best Hanukkah ever, said Shayna. We are one smart family, crowed little Yekel. That's a canoodle for you, said Papa Jack. And that's the end of the Hanukkah story. I have one other story for you. It's Toot and Puddle, Let It Snow, written by Holly Hobby. Christmas was just around the corner, and Puddle hadn't seen a single snowflake yet. Just let it snow, he wistfully pleaded into the sky. There had to be snow. His friend Toot was more concerned about another matter altogether. He wanted to give Puddle a wonderful surprise for Christmas, the best Christmas present ever. He knew that the best present was usually something you made yourself, a one-of-a-kind thingamajig, not just a what's-it anyone could buy in a store. One year he made Puddle a bright red sled. They named it the WP Rocket. Another year he gave his pal a mysterious seed pot. They waited half the winter to see how it would bloom. And just last Christmas, he presented Puddle with a real raft, big enough for two, the WP Pond Lily Queen. They couldn't wait until spring to launch it. This year, though, Toot was really stumped. Puddle was a contented homebody. He was a cook and a gardener and an artist. He loved trees and birds and his own backyard. He was certainly the best friend you could have. What could he possibly give good old Puds for Christmas? And it shows pictures of him cooking and gardening and outside and looking at birds. Of course, Puddle was asking himself the same question about Toot. One year, he knit him a wool sweater, robin egg blue. Another Christmas, he gave him a purple ball for balancing on. Then there was a year of Puddle's giant plum pudding, which kept them merrily stuffed for a month. Puddle knew Toot inside and out. His friend loved hiking and adventure in strange places. He loved maps and gears and exciting weather. He was brave and daring and jolly. He was the best friend ever. What was just the thing for good old Toodles this year? And it shows lots of pictures of Toodles, or not Toodles, of Toot. When Puddle phoned his cousin Opal to ask her opinion, she said, a little something cuddly would be nice, like a homemade doll. For Toot? Really? Asked Puddle. I think he'd like that, Opal replied sweetly. When Toot called Opal with the same question concerning Puddle, she said the same thing. Maybe a homemade doll or something. Something soft and cute, she said. That night it began to snow. The next morning, Toot and Puddle awoke to a new world. The snow that had been silently falling through the night now blanketed everything with a hushed, gleaming luster. The skis, Toot called. Where are the skis? I've got them, Puddle cried eagerly. Let's go. The path through the woods became a magical journey. The two friends skied along in silence, stirred by the beauty surrounding them. When they stopped to rest, Puddle said, I wish I could take this morning and put it in my pocket and keep it forever. Me too, sighed Toot. It's perfect. But then by evening, hard rain began to fall. Oh no, Puddle protested, and by the next day, the glorious snow was gone. I can't believe it, Toot frowned. Neither can I, Puddle said sadly. I was all set to go sledding. His spirits had been momentarily dampened. Still, Christmas was coming. It was almost here, snow or no snow. And the two friends soon plunged into a state of busy excitement. As for presents, Toot spent every spare minute in his workshop in the basement, clearly inspired at last. And Puddle was up to something equally as private and absorbing in the attic. On Christmas Eve, the two friends emerged from their workrooms, and each of them carried a handsomely wrapped something or other. Wouldn't you like to open your present now? Toot asked. We have to wait till tomorrow, Puddle said, when Opal comes. Christmas morning in Woodcock Pocket was brimming with anticipation. Opal soon arrived. As the youngest, she was the first to open presents. How did you know what I wanted? She wondered appreciatively. It was just a lucky guess, said Puddle. What will you name them? Well, said Opal, I'll have to get to know them first. One is probably a Toot, and one is probably a Puddle. What is a puddle? Puddle asked. And what in the world is a Toot? Said Toot. You know, Opal replied. I'm sure they're best friends, but one is one way and the other is the other. Oh, the friends said together. Merry Christmas, Toot beamed, presenting his enormous gift to Puddle. His friend unwrapped the package slowly and carefully. I love it, said Puddle. I made it myself, Toot said proudly. I know. It's for sledding, snow or no snow. Let's go sledding today, said Opal. And Merry Christmas to you, Puddle said, presenting his package. Toot tried to remain calm, but couldn't quite suppress his eagerness. It's you and me, said Puddle shyly. He added, that snowy day in the woods. It's perfect, Toot said, standing back to admire his friend's work. There we are. You and me. The end. I really like Toot and Puddle. They're really, really good friends, and they enjoy the winter time with the snow, just like the snow here at Storytime. I hope you like the stories, and I hope you have a happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and take care. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas! How are you? Today, I'm going to be reading you some of my favorite Christmas books. I hope you like them as much as I do. As you know, I say this every week. I love books, so I hope you like these ones too. The first book I'm going to read to you is called Santa Mouse. And Santa Mouse was written by Michael Brown and illustrated by Elfrida DeWitt. So remember, that means Michael wrote the words and Elfrida drew all the pictures. Let's see, Santa Mouse. Once there was a little mouse who didn't have a name. He lived in a great big house, this mouse, the only mouse in the whole wide house. He used to play a game. He daydreamed he had playmates who were friendly as could be, while some of them would bring their dolls and dress up and have tea. There were others who'd play cowboys or be Eskimos or Spanish, but when he would try to touch them like a bubble, they would vanish. Remember, they were his pretend friends, so they weren't really there. Now, through the year, this little mouse had saved one special thing, a piece of cheese. That cheese does not look very delicious to me. I don't know what you think. The kind that makes an angel want to sing. On Christmas Eve, he brushed his teeth, and as he washed his paws, he thought, my goodness, no one gives a gift to Santa Claus. He ran to get his pretty cheese, and after he had found it, the paper from some chewing gum he quickly wrapped around it. And then he climbed in bed and dreamed that he was lifted high. He woke to find that he was looking right in Santa's eye. Can you imagine if Santa Claus picked you up and you were looking right in his face? I would be very nervous by that. I thank you for my gift, said Santa. Tell me, what's your name? I haven't any, said the mouse. You haven't? Name. You know I need a helper as I travel house to house, and I shall give a name to you. I'll call you Santa Mouse. So here's your beard and here's your suit and here's each shiny, tiny boot. You mustn't sneeze and don't you cough, just put them on and we'll be off. Look at the cute little outfit that Santa gave to Santa Mouse. They look like twins. Then over all the rooftops on a journey with no end, away they went together, Santa with his tiny friend. And so this Christmas, if you please, beneath the tree that's in your house, why don't you leave a piece of cheese? You know who'll thank you? Santa Mouse. We leave a piece of cheese in our house. We leave cookies and milk for Santa Claus and a little piece of cheese for Santa Mouse, just in case he does have an actual mouse. So now I have another book that I'm going to read to you. This book is called The Great Santa Stakeout. And this book was written by Betsy Bird and illustrated by Dan Santant. All right, you ready? This one is pretty silly. The Great Santa Stakeout, written by Betsy Bird and illustrated by Dan Santant. Freddie Melcher was Santa's #1 fan. Look at that outfit. He was the kind of kid who dressed up as Santa for birthday parties and Valentine's Day. Dressing up as Santa on Valentine's Day? It's kind of silly. And even talk like a pirate day. Look at, Freddie's dressed like Santa and all of his friends are dressed like pirates. Silly Freddie. Freddie had Santa posters, Santa action figures, and Santa underwear. He was even saving up to buy his own pet reindeer. But there was one prize Freddie desperately wanted, a photograph taken with Santa fresh out of the chimney. I don't know if that's allowed. What do you think? Oh, it was risky. Every good kid knows Santa only visits when everyone's in bed. It's awfully hard to sneak anything by someone who can see you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake. That's why Freddie had to be extra good this year at hiding his plans. Ooh, did you hear that? Not extra good kid, but extra good at hiding his plans. Step 1 in Freddie's plan. String the roof with cans so the sleigh can't land undetected. Look at all those cans on the roof so that when Santa hits them, they all jingle and make noise. Step 2, rig the whole living room with motion-sensitive cameras. Did you see that Freddie took the star off his Christmas tree or the angel off his Christmas tree and put a camera up on the top of it? Freddie. Step 3, put the milk and cookies on a pressure-sensitive plate. Step 4, practice staying up late. Look at all those alarm clocks that Freddie's using to try to practice staying up late. Finally was here, Christmas Eve. No one suspected a thing. Freddie was vigilant. It was almost midnight and Santa would be here any second. Yeah, any. Uh-oh, looks like Freddie fell asleep. Crash! What was that? The cans on the roof. Freddie raced to the window just in time to see. Disaster! Something rolled right off the roof. What do you think rolled off the roof? Look at, do you see that red leg with the black boot? Oh no. Freddie tore outside. What had he done? Santa had duped him and dashed. Freddie was angry. No, that's not it. Embarrassed. No, that's not either. He was sobbing his heart out, pounding the snow, having the most broken tantrum of his short life. Look at, Santa threw, do you know, a snowy glowy, those big plastic Santa Clauses, right off the roof and pretended it was him. Well, Freddie actually felt fantastic. While other kids nestled all snug in their beds, Freddie had played hide and seek with his hero. He even had a note from Santa that he could add to his collection. Did you see the note? The note said, Santa Claus, North Pole. Nice try, Freddie. Santa. Pretty good, Santa, huh? So what if Santa got away this year? That's fine. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe no one can outwit Santa Claus. No one, that is, except Freddie. Hey, there's always next year. Look at those big, elaborate plans that Freddie has, those blueprints. Try to trick Santa. Do you think that Freddie could actually trick Santa? I don't think so. But I think we all try at least once in our lives. All right, and my last book today is called If You Ever Want to Bring a Pirate to Meet Santa, Don't. And this book was written by Elise Parsley. My children really like this book. They think these books are very funny. If you ever want to bring a pirate to meet Santa, don't. If your dad says you're going to meet Santa, he means the bearded guy with a red suit and a bag full of treasure. He does not mean that guy. That guy's a pirate. Do you see that guy right there? The one who's in the water fountain, who has a beard and a red suit and a bag that might have treasure in it, but he also has a skull bandana on and doesn't look like the friendliest Santa I've ever seen, because he's a pirate. If you make friends with a pirate anyway, your dad will tell you pirates are on the naughty list. You'll tell him it's okay and that you will fix it by the time you meet Santa. You'll teach this pirate not to pillage and plunder or sing loud sea shanties, and he won't make anybody walk the plank. Cross your heart. Do you think that's what's going to happen? While you wait to meet Santa, an elf will be handing out candy canes. You'll say thank you and nudge the pirate to do the same. Look at all the candy canes that elf has. That's one of my favorite parts of seeing Santa. He'll yell, "Arg!" and tooth rot. And finally, look at, he stole all the candy canes from the elf. Thank ye. You'll hope he'll give those candies back before you meet Santa, right? We want him to be on his best behavior before he gets to Santa. Further up the line, you'll suggest singing to pass the time. The pirate will dive right in with, oh, a hog-eye ship and a hog-eye crew and a hog-eye mate and a skipper too. Is that the Christmas songs that you know? I don't think so. You'll have to add, and a Merry Hog-Eye Christmas to you, and hope that he'll learn Jingle Bells by the time he meets Santa. Look at all the people in the line. They think this is very silly. The carolers are even walking away. Look at that line. Have you ever waited in a really long line for anything? Look at that one. Now, the longer you and that pirate wait in line, the more tired and bored and hungry you and that pirate will get. Then, the pirate will pull out an egg and cheese sandwich from his bag. You'll remind him that 'tis the season for giving. He will look at you and look at Santa and then pop that sandwich right down the old hatch. He didn't even share a bite with her. You will hope you don't starve before you meet Santa. That line is still so long. Finally, do you see what that pirate pulled out? He pulled out a giant swordfish. You will get to the front of that line. They got to the front of the line because everybody was scared of his giant swordfish. What do you think of that? And they all ran away screaming. So you would get to the big front of the line and meet Santa Claus himself. Things will be going so well. Then the elf behind the camera will ask you to smile nicely and say cheese. Are they smiling nicely and saying cheese? Then the elf will tell you, no, smile nicely and say cheese. It doesn't look like they're doing what he's asking. He will say, cheese. No, cheese. They're giving a lot of silly faces there. Then he'll holler for you to just give me one good smile already. Look at that elf. He looks like he's going to cry. That's when you'll hear Santa whisper, that's why pirates are on the naughty list. And before you know it, look at that pirate. Seems very unhappy with Santa. Santa will be walking the plank. Look at, he put a swordfish in the fountain. By now, of course, you'll wish you had walked right past that bearded guy in the suit with a bag full of treasure who was really a pirate. By now, you'd rather be stuck in a snowbank than here with this pirate. And before you can even get the pirate to apologize, Santa and his elves will just go home. Look at, they're all walking away. Well, here's what I would do if I were you. March that scallywag to a chair and put him in time out. Then do not let him move from that seat. Look at, she's bringing over all the kids who are crying in the line because Santa left. Until he changes his scurvy ways. Look at them sitting together. Don't they look so nice and so happy? They think they're sitting with Santa, not a pirate. Ugh, never mind. Look at, they threw all the candy everywhere. The kids are making silly faces. This did not go according to plan. If you ever want to bring a pirate to meet Santa, don't. After all, pirates are on the naughty list. The end. So those are my favorite Christmas books. I hope you have some favorites that you like too. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, whatever it is that you celebrate. Bye. Enjoy your night.